If you're feeling like you're eating well, I put that in quotations, working out, you're taking the supplements, you're still feeling like tired or having these chronic health issues, a lot of the times it can be connected back to our metabolic health. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Wellness Effect. This week, we are talking about metabolic health. And something I always like to say when we're talking about metabolism is I think the first place our mind goes when we're talking about metabolism is just how many calories we're burning and how easy it is for us to lose weight, essentially. But it's actually the sum of every single chemical reaction that's happening within our body. And so it is so much more than that. It impacts how well our body can create energy, how well we can balance our hormones, digest our food, manage our stress, recover. So it is a very important thing. And to be quite honest, I'd say a lot of the population, especially in North America, our metabolic health is steadily declining. And I would say that's honestly just all over the world. So if you're feeling like you're eating well, I put that in quotations, working out, you're taking the supplements, you're still feeling like tired or having these chronic health issues, a lot of the times it can be connected back to our metabolic health. So we're going to talk about that, what we can do to improve our metabolic health, signs that your metabolic health maybe isn't exactly where we want it to be. And we're just going to kind of do a little bit of a deep dive. But before we get into it, if you like our podcast, please be sure to subscribe, download, like, hit the bell notification, follow us on YouTube, all of those fun things. And we're just going to get right into the fun stuff. So how are you guys before I get into everything? You want to make yourself present?
I'm lazy and I've been struggling with my metabolism for 20 years. Just kidding, but that's what good. Felt right. So I said it.
I know.
My name's Kira. I don't know what else to say.
I don't think I've ever struggled with my metabolism.
Yeah, like
I have perfect metabolic
I'm someone
health.
who's been told you must have a fast metabolism my whole life, and
that's actually a great transition.
I actually don't. So what?
It's a great transition.
What the heck even is it?
Well, like I just said, Kira, if you were listening, just kidding. Metabolism is the sum of all the chemical reactions that are keeping us alive. And so once again, a lot of people think of like weight loss and burning calories, but it's so much more than that. And one of the things that we actually see on the HTMA when we do it for our clients is what kind of metabolic type they are. And it's really cool because with your metabolism, it's something that can change over time. It's something that we can adapt. It's something that we can adjust. But how I like to describe it is a lot of the times when people see that they're this slow metabolic type, they're like, well, that makes so much sense because I've always had a hard time losing weight. But someone that has a slow metabolic type or a fast metabolic type, I should say, can be just as like overweight, just as unhealthy as someone with a slow one, vice versa. And so that's, to me, when I heard that, I was like, that makes so much sense and is such a good way to describe it. But our metabolism really controls like so many different things. It's going to control our energy. It's going to control like how tired we are and what our sleeps are like. It controls our body temperature and our thermoregulation. It controls, obviously, our weight is a component to it, and just our overall like how much calories we're burning at rest and that BMR, and how many calories we're burning to exercise and movement and how our body responds to that. Another big component of it is like our blood sugar and insulin. And we'll talk about this, but when we talk about insulin resistance, when we talk about PCOS, those are both metabolic disorders. We are often told they're hormonal disorders, but they come down to our metabolic function, how our body utilizes insulin. Of course, like our thyroid, our cortisol, our leptin and ghrelin, those hunger and fullness cues are all tied to our metabolism as well. Our digestion, our gut motility, our body's ability to detoxify and drain it, and our drainage and our lymphatic drainage. And then also just like our overall like brain function. If we have brain fog, and all of those different things are all connected to our metabolism. So you can see when we're talking about metabolism, it is such an umbrella term. It's not just one specific thing, but I think it's good to kind of just talk about like what in our current day-to-day lives is down regulating our metabolism.
This episode of The Wellness Effect is brought to you by Lifestyle You. If you're listening to this podcast and thinking, okay, this sounds like me, whether it's low energy, hormone imbalances, stubborn symptoms, or you just feel like you've tried everything, Lifestyle You is our root cause coaching program designed to help you actually connect the dots.
We use functional nutrition, personalized support, and functional lab testing to figure out why your body is doing what it's doing, instead of just guessing or slapping a Band-Aid on symptoms.
And because you're a listener of The Wellness Effect, when you use the code Wellness Effect, you'll receive a free functional lab when you join the program. If this episode is resonating with you, make sure to share it with a friend, subscribe to the podcast, and check out the show notes to learn more about Lifestyle You and how to apply.
Yeah, and I love hearing like all the different pieces that it's attached to, because we do just think it's like that person's skinny and they eat a lot, they have a fast metabolism, but that's just not what it means. And we'll really get into, like very specific symptoms, but I want to kind of take it out a little, zoom out a little bit, because a lot of what we're calling or seeing is these modern health issues are actually metabolic diseases, like at the core. So things like Jensen said, PCOS, insulin resistance, and diabetes. Even things like fatty liver disease, these are all like metabolic syndromes. And even like from that list she was just talking about, thyroid conditions, they don't just happen on their own. This is because the body's lost its ability to actually efficiently create energy. That's what metabolism is. It's that energy creation. So we're not able to regulate our blood sugar. We're not able to manage our hormones. We're not able to move food through our gut properly. And even like another layer of like the emotional standpoint, it's like, how are you metabolizing, your stress and your anxiety? Like, is it stagnant in your body? Do you get so stuck in like situations that don't feel good? Are you just like blowing them off, blowing past them, not even letting them land in your body at all? So like there's that piece of it too. And oftentimes when we like go to the doctor or we're like looking at my blood sugar's unstable, or my, I'm really stressed, or I'm nutrient deficient, they're like looked at as separate problems. Like, okay, we'll deal with your blood sugar by, giving you glucose. We'll deal with your stress by giving you an SSRI. But what's important to understand is they have the same root cause. And what's important to understand is they're going to flag way before these labs are given and the body starts sending these signals. So these things don't just appear overnight, and just some like signals to start kind of breaking this apart. Because again, like I said, we think of metabolism when we think of like weight loss, but there's so much more. So weight is a piece of it. If you are someone who is gaining weight on very low calories, if you're plateauing despite being really consistent with how much food you are eating, or if your appetite is just low in general, these are all some signs. And as far as blood sugar is concerned, if you're crashing after your meals, just paying attention to how you feel after you eat is really important. If you're crashing in the afternoon specifically, or if you find that you're hangry, like you're one of those people, like I always used to just say like, do not talk to me when I'm hungry. And I'm realizing now that doesn't happen to me anymore, which is actually so cool. Yeah, like if you just get ragey and like mean when you're hungry, that's like a blood sugar problem. That's not just like your personality. And then digestion wise, like I talked about, how we're metabolizing things. We want things moving through our bodies so that we can get the nutrition. We don't want it just shooting through. With a fast metabolism, it just like shoots through your gut and you're not able to actually absorb the nutrients from it. And if things are too slow, it can start to like actually rot and, cause other issues. So we want things moving at a normal speed. We don't want to see constipation. We don't want to see diarrhea. We don't want to see like really irregular bowel movements. We don't want to see a ton of bloating. There's also like a hormonal piece to this. So things like PMS, irregular or painful periods, if your libido is really low, your hair is thinning, even like skin struggles like acne, anything skin wise could be a sign that your metabolism is struggling. Your detox pathways aren't able to like push things out. So they're just going to take it out through your skin, which is an easy sort of off ramp for your detox pathways. And then with the nervous system piece, if you feel that like wired but tired, like you have all this energy, but like if you lay down, you could probably close your eyes and feel exhausted, but maybe not fall asleep. If your stress tolerance is really low, if your anxiety is high, or if you find yourself sore for like 3 days after a workout, like you want to feel a little burn. But if you like are still struggling like days after, that's not a great sign. And then same thing with sleep quality. If you're struggling to fall asleep or stay asleep, that's also really tied to your metabolism. So these aren't just random symptoms. These aren't just like annoying little things. And always too bringing it back to remembering, this is something I talked about in like a woman's circle that I did. It's like, don't forget to thank your body for like showing you these things, because yeah, it's annoying to have acne. It's annoying to like sleep shitty, but it's showing you that underneath there's something way bigger going on, and it's going to lead. It's like this volcano that's like just starting to bubble. And if you're just getting pissed off and like covering it up, you're going to one day have a massive explosion. But if you actually like deal with it and figure it out from a root cause why this is happening, if it is a metabolic issue, you're going to prevent much bigger issues down the line.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think a lot of the times where people get confused is just understanding why metabolism slows down. And I think we've just thrown around that term so much of like, oh, I have a slow metabolism. It's not my fault. I have a slow metabolism. But it's actually the best case scenario that your metabolism has slowed down based off of your lifestyle choices or whatever it may be. Because if you didn't, you would die. So our metabolism slowing down is our metabolism adapting to the resources and the recovery that it is given. And it is a good thing, but it is also based off of your choices. So people aren't, I mean, genetics do play a little bit of a role, but like we always say, genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. And so sometimes your metabolism can slow down because of more external things, external stress, whatever. And then sometimes it slows down because of habits that will constantly signal stress to the body. And either way, regardless of what it is out of those two things, the same thing happens and the body downshifts. Your metabolism starts to adapt, and then it slows when the body constantly perceives that resources are unstable or recovery is insufficient. And that perception can come from poor sleep, inconsistent eating, high stress, or lack of movement. And it can also come from more disciplined habits like chronic undereating or excessive training or constantly pushing through exhaustion. But like Jensen said, your metabolism is pretty much what runs all of your bodily processes that you don't even have to think about running. But we are not robots. And in order for that system to run and for everything to work cohesively and in like together as a pattern, like there is certain things that need to be done. And the most important thing you actually have to do is like give the metabolism fuel so it can do its job through eating enough food. So it's just a really good like mindset shift that you do need fuel to survive, and your metabolism needs a certain amount of calories. And that's what maintenance calories is how many calories does your metabolism need to maintain your body weight while also doing all of its jobs. So I think it's important to understand that, because I just think people really don't understand that all of these things our bodies do on a daily basis without us having to tell it just is like a robot, and it just will automatically happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's just because it's your bad luck and you're the chosen one. It's like, no, it's not. So let's just kind of go over why some reasons are that our metabolism might be downshifting or slowing down. So there's really like 8 main reasons that we see this. And so the first one is food sources. So our food quality just isn't what it used to be. We're eating a lot of ultra processed foods that don't have any ingredients that are necessarily serving us. Our soil isn't as good as it once was. Everything is covered in pesticides, whatever it may be. And then even in that, or maybe an additional one, is just making sure that you're actually eating enough calories, because our metabolism does need enough fuel to operate. And if you're not giving it enough fuel, it is just going to choose whichever responsibilities that it has that are on the lowest on the totem pole for keeping us alive. So you want to think about like healthy hair, healthy skin, healthy nails, good hormones. You don't need those to survive. You need your heart to beat, right? So it's like, that's priority number 1. Priority number 27 is healthy hair. So if you're not eating enough calories, your metabolism is just like, cool, don't care about healthy hair anymore. I'm going to shut that off. So you really need to make sure that you're actually eating enough to fuel it, while on top of that, making sure that your food sources are good. We're not getting enough movement in as a society. So we are very stagnant, and movement can do so many things. Getting our glucose to the cell membranes, it moves our lymph, but we're just not getting enough of it, especially just daily movement, walking throughout the day. We're also very stressed out as society and like don't know how to deal with our emotions. I feel like especially our generation that had the generation of the baby boomers as parents, and even you baby boomers also, because we learned from you. But I think we're getting better at it, but still just emotions and stress. We're not prioritizing stress management most of the time, and that does downregulate your metabolism. Sleep quality and length of sleep is also not where it needs to be. And that is where most or a lot of our body does its detoxification processes. It's also where recovery is happening. And so if your body isn't able to detox and your recovery isn't there, your metabolism is going to slow down and to adapt to that. And the next one is temperatures, which I've actually just randomly been going down a little bit of a rabbit hole recently with. And it's just so interesting because you can actually learn so much about your metabolism by just taking your morning, like your waking body temperature. And fun fact, if you take it immediately upon wakening, you should be between, I think it's 36.6 to 36.8. It's just under 37 degrees Celsius or like 97 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. If it is lower than that, you know your metabolism is downregulated, which I just find so fascinating. And I think that's one of the easiest ways without like external testing to know if your metabolism is functioning properly. So fun fact, but take your temperature in the morning and you will know pretty quickly if it is where it needs to be.
I think just like as a society, we are like, we've gotten like when we're in our house, we have the AC on in the summer, we have our heat on in the winter, and those like changes in our temperature are actually something that like is a metabolic signal, and it impacts our like cellular health and our metabolic health. And we've completely gotten rid of it. Like in our house, when it is hot outside, we are cold inside. We have no ability or need to regulate our temperature, and that directly impacts our cellular health. I just wanted to throw that in because that's
if you don't
so
use
interesting.
it, you lose it. But
Amen.
We talked about that a lot on our like the seasons shifting episode, where it's like, you know, the first instinct is to grab a big coat and bundle up to go outside. But even if you just leave your jacket undone or off for the first couple minutes of your walk, there's just so many benefits that come from allowing your body to regulate. Yeah. Love that. And then another thing that's causing slow metabolisms is just the toxins in our environment, like I mentioned. So yes, it's also in our food, but it's just in the makeup we put on our face, in the laundry detergents that we wash our clothes with and our bed sheets with, in our containers that we put our food in our cutting boards. Like there's just so many toxins in our everyday products that our metabolism, even 10 years ago, didn't have to deal with all of this fake stuff. And it's kind of just progressively gotten worse. And I think our awareness is a lot bigger now, which is great, but also just the amount of toxins and the impact is a lot bigger. And so I do think if you want to be proactive with your health at this point, you do have to start lowering your toxic exposure where you can. You can't avoid it. There's no point in being scared of it, but you can raise your awareness to just understand the ones that are going to make the biggest difference. And then another thing that's downregulating metabolisms, which we've been all on a little bit of a kick recently, is our circadian biology that does dictate our cellular biology. And I just think as a society, again, we have completely gotten so far away from being in alignment with our circadian clock. We're just doing a horrible job, but
horrible. And
I think it's just even cool, like hearing Kira's journey of how good of a sleeper Jake is and how amazing that has always been, where prior to her getting pregnant and throughout her pregnancy, a huge, huge part of that was her circadian rhythm and lowering that blue light and getting outside and getting more sunlight. And there's just so many bodily processes that our metabolism runs based off of what time of day does it think it is. And when it gets confused because we are constantly bombarded with blue light and we're inside, we're never touching the earth, like your body doesn't know what season it is, what time it is, nothing. And even with us eating foods that aren't necessarily in season or having fruit all year round, like there's just so many things that your circadian biology is based off of. And again, we've just gotten so far away from that. So that is something for sure that's making a big impact. And then last but not least is just medications. We are living in a world where there's a medication for absolutely every single symptom that you have. And I just think it has become an easy way out that in the long run is just doing more damage than good, that over time your body relies on and then needs that medication. So definitely impacting your metabolism. And
there's a place for medication, but it's just like when we are medicating every little thing, like your body can't keep up.
Yeah. And like, it's such an interesting topic, and maybe we should unpack this on a different episode, because there are certain things where medication is needed, but it almost should never be without also lifestyle adjustments. Like, it's like a medication to me is almost like a supplement. And I think for like more acute injuries or things, it's different. But if you're finding yourself on reoccurring medications that you have to take forever for the rest of your life, or, oh, I get reoccurring yeast infections and I need antibiotics. It's like, okay, if you're doing that multiple times a year, there is something wrong.
Well, and then so many times, like, you start one medication and then it like gives you constipation, so you have to take a medication for that. And then that medication that you take for the constipation gives you headaches. So now you're taking like a pain killer, and
there's
then
side effects to everything.
and then you have to like layer on all these medications because of the side effects of the one that you're taking that could likely be fixed with the root cause reset.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, when you really zoom out, I think the easiest thing for us all to relate to is like, why can one person eat the exact same diet as another person, and they eat the exact same amount, the exact same calories or whatever, and they have completely different responses? It's because metabolism is kind of responding to context and not just calories. You hear that? Yeah. Science bros. Anyways, a slow metabolism is like a physiological response to repeated signals. And when habits improve and the body consistently receives stable signals, metabolism can adapt again, and it is responsive. It is not fixed. So you don't have a slow metabolism forever. It adapts to what you give it. And I think that's such an important thing to understand, because if you have the identity and you constantly say you have a slow metabolism, then you're going to continue to do things that a person with a slow metabolism would do. So that's not just here's your card. Like, you can do something about it and change it.
Yeah, exactly. And what we can do to change it, well, we're going to tell you, because there's a lot of things, and basically it's almost just a reverse of a lot of like what Lacey just said, but we'll just, I think, dive a little bit more deeper into everything. So yeah, we're going to talk about what we can actually do. It's going to be a little bit just kind of tackling on what Lacey just said, but just a little bit more in depth, so you guys have like actionable things that we can do. And obviously, as per usual, we don't need to do all of these all at once, but it's just something we want to be aware of. So first things first, like we talked about, we want to eat enough, and we want to eat good quality foods. As I love this saying, like, as a society, a lot of the times, and I don't totally agree with it, but we are overfed and undernourished. And so I think there's two sides of that. We're either undereating and undernourished, or we are overeating and still undernourished, because like Lacey was saying, our soil quality has gone down. We are eating overly processed foods, which when we really look at some of them, they are just like chemicals. Like, we're literally just eating chemicals, and like every once in a while that's totally fine. But when that's your whole entire diet, we're completely void of any nutrients. And that is so key for our metabolism. And when we pair that with just under eating in general, that's the fastest way. So we really want to focus on eating enough mineral rich foods. And so really trying to think about like getting in the colors, getting in the macronutrients, and not eating like a toddler. I think at the end of the day is what you want to aim for. I can't tell you exactly what your body needs, because you may have been under eating for a long time or overeating. There may be a little bit more like digging we need to do to get to what exactly your body needs in terms of caloric intake. But if you are eating 3 big balanced meals and like 1 snack a day with a protein, carb, fat, fiber, it's a really, really great place to start. So that's what we'll say with eating enough. And then I want to talk a little bit about minerals. Obviously, like I said, we get a lot of insight into our metabolic function through the HTMA, which is that hair tissue mineral analysis that we talk a lot about and that we do with every one of our clients. But our metabolism is enzyme driven, and enzymes require minerals. And so there's some certain minerals that play like a very specific role in our metabolic function. And so like sodium and potassium help create cellular energy, and they're going to really help with proper nerve signaling. Magnesium is required to produce ATP, which is your body's actual energy source. And things like zinc and copper and selenium are there to help support our thyroid function and hormone production and our immune system. And iron is going to help like deliver oxygen to your cells to make sure they're creating proper energy. If we have too much calcium, it's going to block what's coming in and out of our cell and like our ability to actually absorb that. If we don't have enough sodium and potassium, those are considered minerals that help keep other minerals in solution. And so they all are tied together. And at the end of the day, the main thing they're impacting is our overall metabolic health. And so when we pair that with like our lifestyle and then our diet that's void of nutrients, we are typically going to be very depleted in minerals. And I have yet to see an HTMA that someone has perfect mineral balance or too many minerals. So that is a very, very huge part. And that's why we love the HTMA and why we do it with all of our clients, is because it gives us even just that motivation that we do need to eat more mineral rich foods. We do need to focus on our nervous system regulation. We do need to do all of the things that we are going to continue to do that help support our metabolic health, which are.
I was just going to add quickly to that, because when you think about just eating whole foods, and if you prioritize a mainly whole food diet, you're going to get in a lot of those minerals and nutrients. And it's almost like that's the way that everything was designed. It's just crazy, right?
It's so mind-blowing. And that's what I was going to say too when Jensen was talking about like how much to eat. And if you're naturally just leaning towards eating 3 balanced meals a day, you have protein, you have fiber, your blood sugar is also going to be a lot more balanced, which is a huge piece of like the metabolic puzzle. We need to have that blood sugar balance. And one of the main ways that we can balance our blood sugar without like going deeper and knowing exactly what's going on by like testing our levels, just having those, meals that are at a regular time, the same time every single day. That's not only going to balance your blood sugar, but it's also going to kick your metabolism in at the same time. It's like, oh, this is when we eat. I can digest food, and then I can move along to like pulling the nutrients out of it and like focusing on thyroid or like focusing on sleep or whatever we're at in the day. So if we spend just a little bit of time like getting enough food, we're ticking all these other boxes, which is really cool too. So eating to balance blood sugar is really, really important. I think we talk about this is probably one of our most talked about topics. So I feel like every time I talk about it, I'm just like, I don't need to go into exactly what to do to balance your blood sugar, but maybe I should, because I just keep glazing over it. I know we have an episode all about balancing your blood sugar, but the best thing you can do is just eat at regular times, eat really well balanced meals. Don't have naked carbs on their own. For most people, they're going to spike your blood sugar. You need to pair them with a fat or pair them with a protein, or better yet, both would be amazing. Even just like starting to learn about like what a carb even is, that was something for me that was like, oh, like chips by themselves are gonna like spike my blood sugar. So I went through like a phase. I was addicted to those like Miss Vicky's spicy dill pickle chips, and I would just dip them in Greek yogurt, and it was so good. But it was also like an actual like legit snack that I didn't feel super terrible about eating. There's a lot of seed oils and shit in there, but I mean, hey, whatever.
Can't be perfect.
And this is something Jensen talks about a lot too. It's not always about like cutting things out. It's like, okay, if I just add yogurt to this little like chip snack, then it will be a lot more manageable for my body and my
mind.
Everything. So I think eating to balance blood sugar is such a good one, and it has ripples into like every area of your life. So if you're confused about blood sugar, like you need to probably do a little bit of a deep dive, but that's just a really basic way. You can also take walks after you eat. That can just help manage a spike if you do have one. Doing things like a digestive support before your meals. So something like even just eating bitter foods. Like oftentimes I'll have arugula with my breakfast to just sort of help prime the digestion, and that can actually decrease those spikes in blood sugar.
even just like apple cider vinegar or any kind of
Yeah.
vinegar can help with that. That's getting into the nitty-gritty, but I honestly feel like balanced meals, going for a walk, and something I like to say too, like if you are having like the coffee on the empty stomach one morning when you're on vacation, or you're having like a treat from a coffee shop, if you can pair that with like going for a walk afterwards, just those little habits.
And something that I was going to add is just like when you think about blood sugar too, you almost have to zoom out, and it is much more about what you do most of the time and not what you do about, the odd time when you want to have a treat from the coffee shop without anything with it, because that's why we have insulin, is to respond to those blood sugar. It doesn't mean we should never have a spike in blood sugar. Our body is designed to handle that. So it's like you don't want to be scared of it, but if you constantly have those blood sugar spikes and you're not implementing anything that Kira said, then your body almost, it like turns it off completely, and then that's when you run in, and that's when you don't have any insulin sensitivity, and we don't need to get into that, but it's just more so like what you're doing most of the time is really what's important. So don't get too in your heads.
Another thing that we can do to improve our metabolism is our favorite topic in the whole wide world right now, and that is our circadian rhythm, our light hygiene. Circadian rhythm, our signals from the sun, our signals from our phones are what turn our metabolism on in all systems in our body and when they turn them on. So if you're staring at blue light right before you go to bed, you're literally telling your body, it's noon, holy shit, we're probably about to have a big meal. I'm going to turn off detoxification. I'm going to turn off restoration. I'm going to turn off like whatever else we do when we're sleeping. We're like removing toxins, cellular waste from the body. And I'm going to turn on digestion right now. And then you like try to lay down and go to sleep. It's like, we don't need our metabolism fired up at 10 o'clock at night for like that specific purpose. So, and I mean, this is one we could really go down a whole rabbit hole of, so I won't get too deep into what it's going to do, but some ways that we can help with our circadian rhythm is it's easy to overcomplicate this. So just try to get outside as many times a day as you can for like 5 minutes. And if you can get outside for half an hour and take a walk, that's great. If you just step outside onto your back porch for like 3 to 5 minutes when the sun is rising and when the sun is setting, that's great too. Get some blue light blockers for like being in your house after the sun goes down, and start going to bed and waking up at the same time, and even just trying to like move your meals towards being at the same time every day. That's a piece of our circadian rhythm as well, and that's going to help our metabolism so much. It's like if someone just came to your house every day at a different time and asked you to do a big job, you'd be like, what the like yesterday you were here at 2 and today you're here at 6, like I'm doing something, like go away. Yeah, I'm busy. So that's kind of the circadian or like light hygiene piece. And then also like building muscle. So doing that strength training, that's going to improve our insulin sensitivity. It's also improving or increasing our body's ability to dispose of glucose. If we are like starting to lean towards too far into overtraining, that can elevate cortisol. So you want to really pay attention to your specific body and how you feel and how your body's kind of handling it. Training should feel good. It should be building your resilience slowly over time, not like making you feel worse every time you work out. You're just like, oh, I'm drained for the day. You need to dial it back, especially if you're a woman. Another thing that I kind of touched on earlier is regulating our nervous system. So these two kind of go hand in hand, and a lot of these do, like as our metabolism improves, like our glucose sensitivity or our insulin sensitivity will, or they kind of go back and forth. And the same thing can be said for our nervous system. If we're stressed out constantly, if we always have a bear to run from, our body is going to have to downshift our metabolism because it literally can't stop and break down food and absorb nutrients from what we're eating and, get our thyroid working perfectly if we're running from a bear. And the same thing can be said for kind of like the other way. When our metabolism starts to slow down, everything in our body becomes like sludgy, and including our ability to process our emotions. They feed off of each other. So yeah, if you have that downregulated metabolism, you're probably also not as well equipped to process emotions, which is going to downshift your metabolism even further, and just like going to keep sort of playing off of each other. So focusing on regulating your nervous system, finding what works for you. having that list, in your phone of like 5 or 6 things that make you feel really good. Maybe it's doing legs up the wall or something like tapping or having a little dance party. Or for some people, it is a workout or like cooking an amazing meal. There's all these different things and everyone's so different. Again, we bring it back to that awareness piece, just noticing what's like tipping off your nervous system and figuring out for yourself what can kind of help you manage that.
Such a game changer.
It's interesting, like listening, and because it's kind of just like all of these jobs that our body does for us that we take for granted. And it's like the more you take for granted, the harder the job is for your metabolism, for your body to do. And then it just gets worse and worse and worse if it's doesn't have the environment to do its job. You know what I mean? And if you kind of think about that with anything in life, if you're constantly changing the environment or the environment's just like way off, then a person's not going to be able to do their job the way they should. And again, just looking back over the last 10, 20, 30, 50 years, the environment has changed so much. And it just doesn't make any sense as to why we wouldn't want to support our bodies in all of these jobs that we're doing. And I think another big, like, underestimated piece of metabolic health, and a thing a lot of people don't think about, is digestion and detox, right? We kind of just think like, oh, we need to eat food and our body's going to do whatever it needs to do with it, or we just want to eat food, you know what I mean? And we're never really thinking about like, how can I make my body digest this food and do what it needs to do properly? And so I think a lot of the times when people think metabolism, they do think of that like, I have a slow metabolism, I can't eat any food. And it's all just about like what they're eating, getting your right macros, your calories, your food quality. But your metabolism doesn't just depend on what goes in, it also depends on what gets absorbed and what actually gets out through the process of detox and elimination. And so if your body can't properly break down food, absorb nutrients, or clear waste efficiently, then your metabolism slows down. Not because you're necessarily doing something wrong, but because the system is starting to get backed up. And so with digestion, that impacts fuel availability. How much of that fuel food that you just ate is your body and your metabolism actually going to utilize? So we need adequate stomach acid that's needed to break down protein and absorb minerals. So if you don't have that, then you're going to be lacking those things, even if you're doing everything right. Proper bile flow is required to digest fats and regulate hormones. And without these, nutrients stay trapped in food instead of becoming that usable energy for your metabolism. And so on top of that, when it comes to like gut motility, that also equals metabolic clearance. And so if you're not pooping, which we all should be pooping 1 to 3 times a day, every single day with quite ease, but regular bowel movements are how the body clears out excess hormones, toxins, and waste. And so if you're constipated, that means you have more estrogen, because that's the prominent hormone that gets released when we poop. You're going to have byproducts of cortisol. You're going to have inflammatory compounds that get reabsorbed, and your metabolism is going to take a hit, because that just creates more stress on your nervous system, which Kira talked about how important that is, and then also on our liver. And so it's great if you're doing all of the things on paper that are right, but if your internal health is lacking or not where it's supposed to be, that will impact and downregulate your metabolism, especially when it comes to digestion. And then when it comes to detoxification, when those detox pathways are sluggish, the body perceives that as stress, because it shouldn't be like that. That's not how we were created. And when the body senses stress, again, your metabolism downshifts, because it goes back to what Kira was saying about the bear. If you're constantly running from a bear, your body is going to shut off those lower priority jobs that are not needed to get away from that bear.
Yeah, I think that is like what I've been looking at more often recently, and just kind of like been digging into a little bit, is just like the bile flow piece, and just like really understanding that like our hormones come out through our poop. And if our bile flow isn't there, we're not going to the bathroom regularly, those byproducts, which are usually like the toxic byproducts, are just getting recirculated, and how much stress that's putting on our systems and our body and our hormones, and it's coming out through our skin. It's like, no wonder we are in like this state of metabolic chaos, and we have acne, and we have these crazy painful periods, when you really understand that piece. And so that was such a big thing for me. Like when you think of metabolism, like once again, not what you're putting in, but also like how it's coming out is so interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's like,
Yeah.
if you're doing absolutely everything right, but you're not pooping, you're not doing much.
You're not pooping. You're not
clearing out excess toxins and hormones and fucking
yeah, that's
shit.
exactly.
Like it's in you. And
You're
your
full
body
of
has to do
shit.
something with it. And even something too that really resonated with me about that is learning that what your body does with those excess toxins and hormones is stores them in fat as a defense mechanism, which makes gaining fat super easy because your body's like, where are we going to put all this toxins and estrogen? And it makes losing fat hard because at that point your body's like, I don't want to lose this fat. Like this fat has all these toxins in it. And so it just makes losing fat hard, easy.
And this person's body doesn't have the ability to remove them. I know that. Yeah. It's all just so connected.
It's so interesting. And that even comes back, which I can't remember if you said that on this podcast, Kira, or the last one about, or maybe you didn't even say it about breastfeeding and losing fat.
It's like one of the worst times to try to be like losing a bunch of fat when you're breastfeeding because your body releases toxins through fat. If you're losing fat, no matter how you're doing it, there's toxins going along with it. And if you're not doing it properly, your drainage pathways aren't open and flowing with nursing. It's one of the biggest like fat taking processes that the body has. And it's just going straight into your baby. And we're always like programmed to like lose all this weight, lose the baby weight. And I can tell, like, I lost a lot of muscle. The places that I'm holding weight, it's fat. It's a store of fat. Like, I can see it on my stomach. I literally have, like, a little fat pouch. And I'm like, I would love for that to be gone, but I'm not going to push it because I want to make sure my body can do it safely and not just pump it into my poor little baby.
Yeah.
I have been thinking about that so much, just like how women are programmed. It's like rebound, like when you breastfeed, all the weight just comes off. And that narrative makes me so angry because it's like, if all the weight is coming off, it's because you're under eating and you shouldn't be under eating. But then there's also all this pressure that like women should be able to breastfeed for a year. And it's like these two things and these two pressures that women have are completely like go against each other. And it's crazy. Okay, well, I hope everybody enjoyed this. If you did enjoy listening to this episode, then what you should do is make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit the follow button and turn on notifications so you don't miss new episodes, especially on YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. It honestly makes a huge difference for us. But if it did click for you or you think someone would find this interesting, please share it with them. It actually helps us out a lot and it also will help them out a lot. So thank you so much for listening and talk to you next Wednesday.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Wellness Effect. We're so grateful to be part of your wellness journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on Instagram for more tips, laughs, and real talk. We'll put all of our handles in the show notes. If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, slide into our DMs or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep creating your own wellness effect.